Welcome to EQ-TV, the Emotional Fitness Channel. And today we're going to be talking about really overwhelming anxiety. Perhaps you get panic attacks. We're going to unpack it. We're going to find the cause, and we're going to give you the tools and techniques how to overcome it. So stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm Marianne Kizell, Emotional Fitness Coach. And today we're going to be talking all about anxiety and panic attacks, where they come from and what we can do about it. So I wonder if you grew up in an environment that was overwhelming. Now, here's a really valuable thing to learn. It's called emotional childhood trauma. Now, what happens to us as a child is we create post-traumatic stress disorder, and it comes from our childhood. And there's a really valuable way to find out whether you fit into this category, because if you know what the cause is, then you'll have all sorts of amazing tools and techniques to actually move forward and create the life you want. It's called an ACE score, and an ACE score stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. So ask yourself, did you grow up in an environment that you got hit a lot? Were you neglected? Was your parent or parents gone for long periods of time? Were they completely emotionally unavailable? Did you get screamed at, hit, bitten, put down, all of these things? Now, some of you may think, my God, this is terrible. Who would have gone through that? But I can assure you a great deal of the planet did go through this sort of stuff. And so were you sexually abused? Were you, and this category is around somebody that was 5 years older than you, who fondled you, who had their way with you in some way sexually. So there's all sorts of elements here that can add up to childhood post-traumatic stress disorder or complex trauma. Now, what happens to us is it gets locked in the nervous system. Now, for me, who's got a very high score, very high ACE score, I only learned over the past 5 years that my nervous system and my body was where it was all held. Here I was for years trying to work through my past in my head, having an intellectual experience. Now, granted, I would have uncovered thousands of limiting beliefs that I was deceiving myself with, and loads of beliefs that actually were programmed into me about being worthless and not good enough. But here's the golden nugget. So you can unpack all of that and go, okay, so I see why I'm continuing to re-traumatize myself, because I'm on autopilot and I'm not aware of who I really am saying I am. And when we can't take responsibility for that, and what I mean is when we don't have enough awareness, and then we don't have the ability to respond to life because we're not owning it, if we're still living in blame, that happened to me, it's their fault, then we can never heal it. So I'm going to put a couple of things. If you subscribe to my channel, you get access to all of these great tools and techniques, right? So hit that subscribe button today. I'm going to put down below a link that's a belief PDF profile. So you can actually fill it out and see what you're saying to yourself every day, what you really believe about who you are, your capabilities, what you think others think of you, and all of these things. That's a really valuable map to see intellectually what's going on. But here's the thing, we hold those beliefs in our body, right? And they're locked in our nervous system. Every time that we were screamed at, it's just tightened and locked in there some more. And with the amygdala in the brain, we either flee from situations that make us feel uncomfortable, we freeze, and if we're freezing time and time again, the nervous system only has a small bandwidth, so we're triggered very, very easily by our environment or people from outside of us, right? And so the more we can work with the nervous system and relax into that and build resilience, it will tell the brain, I'm safe, and therefore we will take more risks. We will involve ourselves in the world and in life a great deal more. Now, you might say to yourself, well, that happened to me, so, how can I possibly have this experience? And I can assure you, with someone with an ACE score of 9, I can promise you this, you can recover, you can do and have a wonderful life. I used to suffer from such chronic anxiety, panic attacks, addiction, because we reach for relief to try and soothe our nervous system. And I don't suffer from those things anymore. Do I get triggered? Of course I get triggered, but I used to get triggered every second of the day, whereas now it's once in a blue moon. And when I get triggered, my recovery time is only a few moments because I have all the tools and techniques to recover. So this is the most valuable point that I'm saying. So one thing I encourage you to do is I'll put a link below so you can actually do the ACE score, find out what spectrum that you're in, and then please subscribe to my channel. It's all about emotional fitness, right? And that's going to have you offer you the tools and techniques every day so that you can live your full potential, so you can live a fantastic life. Okay, so knowing that all our anxiety and panic comes from the nervous system. Now, what's scary about that, or why it keeps repeating itself, is number one, we don't have the tools and techniques, or number two is we don't know what the cause is. Now, you might say after you do the ACE score, oh, well, it's because of my childhood that I've got these problems, and that may be so, but you don't have to make it your story. You can actually start taking responsibility, working on the nervous system now, and not operate through the filter of victimhood. Because that happened to me, I'm like this. It's about disassociating and say, well, that's what happened to me. Now, what can I do about it now? Right? And the moment we stop blaming because they were operating at a level of consciousness that they only knew how, and I can promise you this, generational trauma is a real thing, and they probably were traumatized even worse or equally as they traumatized you. So as soon as we come home to ourselves and take responsibility and go, okay, that happened to me. My father was an alcoholic. My mother had, mental illness. They were brought up in a terrible environment. They were beaten every day and all of these things. Just leave it there. Come home here and go, well, that happened to them. I can see why they treated me so poorly. They had really low self-esteem, or whatever the case may be. They felt worthless. They were full of grief and anger. Whatever it is you need to make peace with there, that's okay. But come here now and say, now what can I do about it? So I don't purge my emotional failures, my emotional feelings, my emotional unhappiness onto other people. And so what can you do? So once you identify what you're dealing with, the level of trauma that you're facing and what's going on in the nervous system, make sure you understand this, my darling. You can heal it, okay? I'm going to also put a link below for an online course that I've got, which is Healing Past Hurts, which has got so many amazing things in it for you. It's about 7 hours of curriculum. I'm going to give you, if you email me off that, well, I'll just put a link below. You can make your mind up whether you want to do it. So what can you do? Here's the tools. Number one, what I do. So every day I journal, and I only journal for 2 minutes, and I use a prompt. So I'll put some prompts below that you can start using. Like today I have a choice. I'll put some prompts there. I feel afraid because, I feel sad because. And once neuroscience has already proven that what happens in the brain, it builds resilience. Soon as you get these feelings out of your nervous system, once again, remember, it tells the amygdala, I'm safer now, I can operate. Because it sucks our energy dry. When you wake up feeling depressed, when you wake up feeling frustrated and angry, It's a cover up for something. Now, if you don't deal with it in that moment, 2 minutes of journaling, that's all it takes. Then you're going to carry it round. It's going to snowball and snowball and snowball all day. It will get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And then someone will say something like slight to you and you'll go off your nut, right? So we don't want that to happen. So taking responsibility, journal for 2 minutes a day. So I'll give you some prompts to do. I'll give you the ACE score to do, and I'll give you a belief profile to do, right? And that will show you where you're at. Then I'll give you the online course link to do. Now, what else can you do for yourself right now? So EFT tapping is amazing. I'm an advanced practitioner, so I also do the eyes, which tells the brain left and right. It desensitizes the feeling of overwhelm. It works incredibly well. Now, here's the problem with most EFT tapping practitioners, the videos that you might see on YouTube. They only deal with the actual symptom of anxiety or panic attack. I deal with the cause, and that is why it keeps coming back, because you're not dealing with the cause, right? So when you're dealing with the cause, if you want a one-on-one session with me, please, let's go through and really nail the cause and start healing from those places. Now, so tapping is very, very good. Journaling is very, very good. And at the end of every day, don't go to bed with an overwhelm of the day. Either journal again for 2 minutes, but you must learn to meditate. And if you don't know how to meditate, it's about calming the nervous system. I would recommend breathing meditations very, very much. There's loads of them on YouTube. I don't like to recommend one type of breathing because it's different for every individual. There's Wim Hof breathing that's supposed to be amazing. I've done it a few times. It was a bit overwhelming for my nervous system. There is all sorts of things, but guided meditations is a great way to start off. And I am going to put together a playlist of all my favorites that have worked really well for me when I get round to it, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So if you subscribe, that will be available too. Now, I hope all of that information is really helpful for you. Now, here's the golden nugget. When you do your ACE score, understand it is there for you to recognize, to come out of autopilot and to come in with, now I know that all of this information, all these fears, doubts, worries, and concerns are trapped in my nervous system. I know this is the part of myself I need to start to work with, not try and convince myself up here all the time. Remember Louise Hay? You might remember her. She was an amazing lady that created Hay House, and it was all about what we think, we believe, we perceive, right? And that's great. But one thing she always said, the cause of all dis-ease in the body and disease in the body comes from our emotions. And if we understand what our emotions are, how they're speaking to us and what they're saying, then we can heal them. So every physical ailment has an emotional disorder attached to it and is the cause of the physical ailment. So what happens when you have a high ACE score is that you have more emotional stress and problems that go on because of the lack of awareness of it. But as soon as you start increasing your awareness, my God, I promise you this, your world will change. And if I can get through the stuff and work through the stuff and have a daily practice and feel happy to be me most of the time, and the times I don't, then I have the tools and techniques to manage my own emotional states. That's personal power. That's freedom. So I hope that's been helpful for you.